The Duke Blue Devils had a very successful 2-year run under Mike Elko, but now a new era begins. Manny Diaz is back in the head coaching role to take over this Duke program after Mike Elko left to go take the Texas A&M job. And even though a lot of people are counting on Duke to fall back down, I have a feeling that the Blue Devils will be a competitive team in the ACC and will be a lot better than some people think. Can Duke be a surprise in 2024? You're about to find out what I think here in this video. What's up, Tailgaters? You're in the booth with Tailgate Nate today, and welcome to my channel, and welcome to Prediction Season. It's where I predict all 134 FBS level college football teams. That means I'm doing your favorite team, so hit the subscribe button and ring the bell so you know when that video gets uploaded. I want to thank you so much for watching this video because it helps support my channel in more ways than you can even imagine. And if you would like to continue to support what I do here on YouTube, please like, comment, share, do anything else you can to help support the channel. Heck, watch my other videos. Literally anything you do to interact with the channel helps to support it, and I appreciate everything that you people do out there for the support of this channel. We're going to dive on into talking about the Blue Devils in just a little bit, but before we do that, I got to tell you how we're going to do it. We're going to take a deep dive into the team's offense, into the team's defense, and at the end of the video, we will go through the Duke football schedule and give it a game-by-game preview and prediction. So with no further delay, diving on into this Duke offense. Sorry for the sudden white light here, so I apologize for that, but couple more things before we do start, however. Right over here are going to be the stats the team put up either offensively or defensively last season. And for your viewing pleasure, right below the team's logo, I have put the team's coaching staff. Now we can dive on into talking about this offense. And this is the team that loses a really good quarterback from last season in Riley Leonard. 1,102 yards, 3 touchdowns, 3 picks on 57% completion percentage. You say, really good? Nate, that's not a very good stat line. Well, he struggled with injuries last season and overall is a supremely talented player. He really is very, very good. He has made the transfer over to Notre Dame this season, where I think he's going to have a very good season if healthy. So you lose a really talented player in Riley Leonard through the portal. Who do you come back, or who is in this quarterback room? Well, Grayson Loftus and Henry Beelan will be back in this room. Loftus was the primary player when Leonard was out last year. 1,006 yards, 8 touchdowns, and 4 picks. Beelan had some playing time as well, 26 attempts, 13 completions, so an even 50% completion percentage for 232 yards, 3 touchdowns, and 1 pick. But the starter for this team, in my opinion, no doubt about it, will be Malik Murphy. Malik Murphy is coming over from Texas, and while he sat behind the likes of Quinn Ewers and got overshadowed a lot in the media by Arch Manning, a lot of people forget Malik Murphy is a very talented player. 477 yards, 3 touchdowns, 3 interceptions on 56% completion percentage for the Longhorns last season, including making a start in the game against Kansas State, the 33-30 overtime win that the Longhorns had last season. There he threw for 248 yards, a touchdown, 2 picks. Malik Murphy's a guy that's going to see his struggles here and there in 2024. But overall, I think you got a really talented quarterback in here, and Malik Murphy, I have no doubt will be a good player for this team here in 2024. You go ahead and move on down to the running back room, where you do lose some pretty talented players. Jalen Coleman's going to be one of them. He has graduated 46 carries for 170 yards and a touchdown last season, but Jordan Waters is the more notable loss in this room. Waters with 819 yards and 12 touchdowns on 153 carries last season. That's a very notable loss. He is gone and joined the NC State Wolfpack. So who do you return? Well, you still get Jaquez Moore back, who, again, got overshadowed by Jordan Waters, but still a very talented player. 116 yards, 116 carries, my apologies, 674 yards and 6 touchdowns from last season. Peyton Jones will also be coming back to give this room some depth, and you get some transfers coming in here. And how about these names? You do get Al Wooten, who comes over from Mercer, pretty solid running back at the FCS level, and Star Thomas, who's had his ups, had his downs, but overall a very talented running back coming over from New Mexico State. So that's a phenomenal phenomenal couple players you are getting over here to this team to help give some depth to this running back room. And Thomas and Wooten, in my opinion, will play big roles in 2024. Wide receiver room, you lose some very talented players such as Jalen Calhoun. He has gone to the NFL for good reason. He was really, really good. 666 yards, 4 touchdowns on 50 catches for him last season. You also do lose Mekhi Wall and Malik Bowen Sims, both of which guys sort of depth pieces last season, but they were both gone through the portal with no notable loss in the tight end room. Let us talk about this pass catching room. Jordan Morris coming back was the leading receiver last year, 835 yards and 8 touchdowns. So that's a big get back for this team. Samir Haggins, Eli Pancol, and Jake Taylor are all notable returners here as well. Jake Taylor, listed tight end in the stat sheet I'm reading right now, but is making that move over to wide receiver, while you also do get Javon Harvey coming in from the transfer portal. He is an Old Dominion transfer that is going to provide some depth to this wide receiver room, if not play a pretty important role. Tight end room, you do get Nicky Dalmolin back in this room. If I'm saying that last name wrong, I apologize, but 147 yards for him last year, leading receiver among tight ends. Jeremiah Hasley and Vance Bolliard are back to this room as well. And on the offensive line, you lose some good talent. Graham Barton, Jake Hornibrook, and Jacob Monk are all gone to the NFL. Maurice McIntyre left due to graduation, and Khalid Perez is gone through the transfer portal. Okay, those are a lot of names, especially those first 4 very notable players to this offensive line last season. So who does come back? Justin Pickett, Tony Boggs, Brian Parker, and Matt Craycraft are all back, while you get Jack Purcell, Bruno Fina, Makai Sahakian, Mike Barr, Eric Schoen, and James Pogorelic, I believe is that last name. One second. Nope, I stand corrected. It is Pogorelic. He's a Stanford transfer, but all of those guys will enter this offensive line room. So overall, when you talk about the Duke offense in 2024, it's hard to see it for me not taking a step up in a couple of stat lines, most notably that passing yards per game and that overall yards per game there as well will go up, with the passing yards per game going up as well. Maybe the rush game takes a little bit of a dip, but overall, I like Malik Murphy at quarterback. I love this running back room with Moore, Thomas, Wooten, and Jones. I think the wide receiver room is going to be undervalued by many, especially getting Eli Pancol back, a guy that just didn't play a big role last season. Overall, really like the offensive talent that is here. Again, Dalmolin, it's up to the offensive line. How does it all fit together? It was a really good offensive line last season, allowed only 17 sacks. They got to fill a lot of open spots on the offensive line. So now when you talk about this Duke Blue Devil defense, as we will talk about here once my slide changes, there it goes, well, it loses its fair share of talent here as well. Now, the Duke defense kept them in a lot of games last season. Pretty solid secondary. The rush defense had its good moments, had some really good players on it, but the Duke defense averaged opponents only 19 points per game. The Duke defense is what helped them remain successful among the Riley Leonard injuries and other things going on with this team offensively, and it loses a lot of talent, most notably off the defensive line. You lose a couple players to the NFL in Dwayne Carter and Jamian Franklin. Both of those guys, very talented players. We'll go through their stat lines here once I find them. Here we go. Dwayne Carter, 41 tackles and 1 sack for him last season, while Franklin, 31 tackles and a sack. Even though those sack numbers not very high, still very disruptive players. Speaking of high sack numbers, though, Aeneas Peebles was your leader in sacks last season with 5 of them, also had 44 tackles. He's left through the portal. RJ Oben, who is an edge rusher, he is left through the portal. Hey, he was tied for that team lead right there with 5 sacks as well and only 17 tackles, while Anthony Nelson has seen his eligibility run out. He has graduated. Woo, a lot of names do leave this room. However, there are some pretty talented names coming back. Wesley Williams is one of them off the edge, 39 tackles, a sack and a half last season. Aaron Hall, Ryan Smith, Vincent Anthony, and Michael Reese all return to this room, while you get Kendi Charles and Will Sealer coming in through the transfer portal. Kendi Charles is that coming over from Liberty, a 4-star transfer according to 24/7 Sports, and Will Sealer is coming over from UPenn. So some pretty solid players coming in there to replace and try to fill the gaps of what you lost from the defensive line. Linebacker room, let's talk about it. Dorian Mossy has entered the portal and has found a new home with the Auburn Tigers, and Cam Dillon has run out of eligibility. He has graduated. Mossy, 61 tackles, 2 pass defended, 1 interception last season, 3rd leading tackler here on this team. So when you talk about the linebackers coming back, you do get your leading tackler back. He reached triple digits last year. It was Trey Freeman, 106 tackles, a sack and a half, 3 pass defended with a pick last year. You also do get Nick Morris and Kendall Johnson back, while Ozzie Nicholas is a guy coming over from the transfer portal. There is another transfer coming into this room as well by the name of Alex Howard from Texas A&M, so kind of flipping the roles that Mike Elko pulled this season. We'll see what his role is here in 2024. Defensive back room, let's talk about it. You lose some NFL caliber players out of the cornerback room. Al Blades and Miles Jones are both gone. 2 very talented defensive backs in their own right. Al Blades, 47 tackles, and led the team with 9 passes defended last season, while when you go ahead and take a look for Jones, only 7 tackles, 2 pass defended, but did have 2 interceptions last year. I believe he dealt with some injuries, but is an NFL-ready player. He'll be playing on Sundays. You also do lose a guy by the name of Brandon Johnson, who will be leaving through the transfer portal. Brandon Johnson had 56 tackles and 4 passes defended last year. Safety room, let's talk about it. Jeremiah Lewis and James Hobson are both gone. When you take a look at the likes of Jeremiah Lewis, 52 tackles, 4 passes defended, again tied for that team lead with 2 interceptions last season. And Hobson, more of a depth piece than anything, but still had double-digit tackles last year with 11 of them. So when you talk about this defensive back room and who's coming back, well, you do get Chandler Rivers back as well as Joshua Pickett. Chandler Rivers, probably going to be the guy that's most notably coming back. 7 pass defended, 1 interception, 58 tackles as a true corner last season. Trayshawn Devones, hopefully I'm saying that last name right. He is a Rice transfer that could play some big minutes, and Vontae Floyd is a freshman that could see good playing time as well. Safety room, you probably get what a lot of people would consider your best defensive back coming into 2024 back. That's Jalen Stinson, 88 tackles, 6 pass defended, 1 interception from last season. Terry Moore, I'm going to butcher this name, so I apologize. Placide Jungu Sungu. I know I butchered that, and you can roast me for it in the comment section below. I will own it. And Deshaun Stone all come back in the safety room. And kickers are people too, so let's show them some love. Porter Wilson, the punter, is gone to the NFL, so you get Todd Pelino back as your place kicker, but a freshman in Cade Reynoldson going to look to take over the punting duties for this Blue Devil team. Okay, how does the defensive line fill all of these gaps, right? It's up to the depth from last season to step up. This was a pretty good defensive line for Duke last season. The rushing stat numbers won't necessarily tell the full story here. In my opinion, there were some injuries with this Duke defense last year, and yes, a ton of names do leave. Overall, I still really like what the Duke Blue Devils have here defensively. Despite all they've lost, I think they have some good pieces coming in through the portal, but it's up to that depth from last season to take a step in the right direction and to fill the shoes of their counterparts from last year. It leads me into the Duke schedule. Hey, any game at home will be underlined, while any game on the road is in italics or that slanted text. And hopefully that'll make the schedule a little more defined for all you people out there. Any game that gets highlighted in green, like this first one here, when the Duke Blue Devils have to go play the Elon Phoenix, that constitutes an easy win. Any game in yellow is going to be a close competitive game, but I still see the Blue Devils being able to win, and red is a loss. Elon is going to be a team that could be fairly solid out of the FCS ranks, but I don't see them challenging the Duke Blue Devils. That is a win in my book. Then you have to go on the road, play the Northwestern Wildcats, and even though there's no true home field advantage for the Wildcats in 2024, this is a team that I think will be feisty. Now, will they be as good as last year record-wise? Probably not. David Braun inherited a interesting situation after Pat Fitzgerald left and just simply did a phenomenal job. I think Northwestern's going to be a pretty competitive team this year, and while they do lose a lot of pieces through the transfer portal, I think Duke, while trying to fill in spots for these transfers and really trying to find out where everything fits and so on and so forth, I think they actually end up dropping this game. Now, I'm not going to sit here and argue that Northwestern's the more talented team, because I do believe that Duke is. Northwestern, I think, is going to struggle once they get into Big Ten play. But I believe that the Wildcats have enough pieces returning to this team, especially with Duke trying to fill the gaps and trying to get some momentum building, that Northwestern will win this game. And so that is a loss on the road in week 2 before they round out non-conference play with UConn and Middle Tennessee State, and I think they win both of them. UConn has lost some talent over the past couple of years. Still could be an interesting team to watch out for, but not a team I see competing with Duke. That is a win for me. But Middle Tennessee, oh, watch out for them this year. They're going to be a player in the Conference USA because of their quarterback in Nick Vadiato. Very, very talented player for the Middle Tennessee Blue Raiders. They got some good offensive pieces, so watch out for the Blue Raiders, especially with this one being on the road. A non-conference letdown could happen here, but I see Malik Murphy and this Blue Devil team being able to rise above that, and I do think they get the win against the Blue Raiders. They get to come back home to start ACC play against the North Carolina Tar Heels, and the Tar Heels lost some good talent from last season, including quarterback Drake May, some really talented pieces on defense, and overall they got some holes to fill, especially at that quarterback position, but Max Johnson is coming in. You still have some pretty talented pieces there defensively for North Carolina. Omarion Hampton is coming back, one of the best running backs in the entire country. I like what the Tar Heels have, but this one at home, I like Malik Murphy. I like Jacques Moore. I like some of the defensive pieces Duke has here a little bit better. I think they match up well with North Carolina, and overall I see the Blue Devils pulling out a close win here at home. You got to go on the road to play the Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets coming up, and this is where I think you suffer your second loss. I think Georgia Tech is going to be sneaky this year. If Haynes King can cut back on that turnover problem that plagued him so often last season, Georgia Tech has got so many talented pieces offensively, it's not even funny. There are some really good pieces offensively. The defense should see a step in the right direction as well. Georgia Tech has all the makings for, if everything goes right, to be a sleeper team. I got Georgia Tech winning that game. You get your first bye week of the season and get 2 straight home games, of which I think you split. One, these are trap games for both of these teams. Florida State and SMU will be very talented teams in the ACC this year. This one on a Friday playing the Florida State Seminoles, but I think Florida State is the team out of the two that is less prone to this upset because of who their head coach is in Mike Norvell, because of some of the players they have transferring in, aka DJU, some really talented defensive pieces. Also returned to this team that went 13-0 last season. Or I should say 13-0 before that absolute blowout against Georgia in the New Year's Six Bowl game. Nonetheless, Florida State will be back on top of the ACC in 2024, at least near it. And so that'll be a win for the Florida State Seminoles, as I just think they have more talent than the Duke Blue Devils. And while SMU and Duke may be on level playing fields talent-wise, SMU coming into the ACC is prone for a couple of letdown games. Now, I really like a lot of the talent they have there, including their quarterback, Preston Stone. After doing my research and watching film, I think Preston Stone, a very talented player, as he proved to be last season. SMU usually always has a lot of speed on this team. They're going to give Duke a lot of trouble here, but SMU coming over to play in a true power conference now. Not that they were never successful in the American Athletic, and they are ready for the power conference fold, I believe, but I think they have a couple letdown games, this being one of them. And look, that's not discounting what Duke does at all. I think Malik Murphy, again, Jacques Moore, some of these defensive pieces, especially after back-to-back losses, will start to get some things put together here. While SMU is a talented team, I like the Blue Devils at home to pull off this win and send the Mustangs home with a loss. So at this point, you're 5-2. You need one more win to clinch bowl eligibility. But for me, it doesn't come against the Miami Hurricanes. Why? I just think they're a really talented team this year. You take a look at what the Hurricanes have coming into 2024. Cameron Ward, Washington State quarterback transfer, former Incarnate Word player, very, very good. Damian Martinez, we know how good of a running back he can be. Xavier Restrepo was a 1,000-yard receiver last season. They loaded up on great defensive talent, and Miami is ready to break out in 2024. And with this being a road game for Duke, I don't necessarily see them pulling this one off. So Miami wins that one. And I do think you lose to your former running back Jordan Moore and the NC State Wolfpack. I think NC State drops this game here. And look, I do like the Wolfpack team a lot this season. Why? Well, you have Grayson McCall coming in to play quarterback for that team. Some really talented wide receiver transfers. Obviously, the former Duke running back in Jordan Moore going over there. Or not Jordan Moore, Jordan Waters. I'm combining last names here. Jordan Waters going over there. Very talented player. And some really good pieces on that North Carolina State defense that we know what Dave Doran's defensive groups do. I like NC State as a team this year, and I like them at home here against the Duke Blue Devils. So, okay, you've lost 2 straight, but 2 games coming up here. You just got to win one of the 2. Well, How about winning both? I think you surprised the Virginia Tech Hokies, who I think are going to be a very good team in 2024. The schedule sets up well for them. You have Kyron Drones coming back. You have Bashal Tootin coming back. Some really good offensive pieces come back in the wide receiver tight end position. The offensive line is set up to be good. The defense is set up to be aggressive and a really, really good threat. Virginia Tech's got all the pieces to be a phenomenal team in the ACC. But I think going on the road here, Malik Murphy, I think at this point, especially after the week of rest and the extra week of preparation that comes with your second bye week, I think Duke will be prepared. They will beat the Virginia Tech Hokies, and they will beat the Wake Forest Demon Deacons to close out the season. While you got to watch out for the Demon Deacons, lost some pieces through the portal, could be competitive, but I still have the Blue Devils winning, which leads to a 7-5 record. Yes, 7-5. You'd think with Riley Leonard, some of these other pieces gone, especially defensively, the record would be a little bit worse. I mean, Manny Diaz coming in here, and yes, there are questions surrounding him, but overall, look, really like this Duke team. I like Malik Murphy. I like the talent offensively, defensively. I like Manny Diaz to come do a good job in his first season as Duke head coach. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. Remember to play hard but tailgate harder, and next time, we will be moving on here to talk about the Texas Tech Red Raiders. Goodbye.